welcome back to Smashing Heads Podcast. This is our recap for the Challenge USA Episode 7. My name's Zach, and I'm joined by my wife, Hannah.
Hey.
And our dog, Winston, but he's not asleep yet.
But he's ready to cuddle and probably snore about 30 minutes in.
Yeah, he'll probably go to sleep. He's in this little circular chair that actually Jake used to sit in all the time, but it's Winston's favorite chair, so he's laying there. Buster would be in here, but he makes too much noise. He
can't sit still.
Anytime you barely move, he has to check out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Winston doesn't care. He just prefers comfort over anything else. But Buster just feels like, oh, do you need me for something? You're going somewhere? Do you need me? Do you need my help?
You're scratching your nose?
Yeah.
Can I help you with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's out of the kindness of his heart that he's trying. Winston is definitely more selfish. He
is just a little cuddle bug.
So yeah, we're this season's a little weird for us just because by the time we are able to get to record in the midst of moving and family things and all the stuff like that, we're not able to record night of, obviously. So it's been coming on the weekends, which it may stay that way going forward. The plan was to do it kind of like Thursdays or Fridays, but like this weekend, there's more stuff we had to do. And
I've been gone every single weekend for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to get together and get this going. Also, for me at least, it doesn't feel like a real season. It kind of feels like an auxiliary, which it is, an auxiliary season. But, maybe that's why. I talked, before we get too far into this episode, I talked last week and I said, like, I think Angela's really... Is it Angela? Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Angela's really good, but she's just kind of boring.
Yes, that's Angela.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Connor who did the breakdown podcast with us. I had no idea she was on the same season of Big Brother as Casey, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they called them furniture the whole season."
Yeah.
Also, I just looked up that season. Also the same season as Fessy and Bailey and Swaggy, a.k.a. Chris, and then Angela and Casey. And I was like, man, that just goes to show me I definitely don't want to watch a Big Brother.
Maybe not that season specifically.
Just because out of that group, Angela is probably the one that I like the most currently.
Agreed.
And she doesn't do a whole lot, so we'll see going forward. I know some people. I know of some more people on this season. I'm aware of Rockstar and JC and Tyler, the guy who Angela's dating, I guess, and some people like that. But man, you're already like 1 for 5 on people who are on this season that I would want to watch, and 1 for 6 even. So not looking forward to that. We did, however, no spoilers for this, but we did finish Alone season 8 on Netflix.
It was really good.
It is good. I wish there were more seasons on Netflix. Hopefully it'll do well. And
everyone that we've talked to about watching the show had already seen it prior to us.
But only since it's been on Netflix.
Yeah, since it's been on Netflix. But like anybody that we've asked, we're like, hey, we're watching this show called Alone. And they're all like, oh, yeah, we watched that. And it's really, really good.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I'd heard of it. Did not realize it had been on for 8 seasons at that point. It's in its 9th season, I think, currently. Because I just don't watch the History Channel much. I mean,
do we have cable?
No, not anymore.
Okay. So
I canceled it when we were starting to move.
Right.
So yeah, it's
so we couldn't watch the History Channel even if we wanted to.
I mean, I could get one of those like streamer whatever things.
It's fine.
But I mean, once the main challenge show starts back, the good thing is you were able to watch these like USA ones on Paramount Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Once the main show starts back, though, we'll have to get cable again, or in some degree. As far as like one of the online ones. I don't know if I'll do YouTube TV or if I'll do Fubo. Fubo's Damon James' company. Or Philo is one. There's a million of them, but I don't know. We'll figure all that out when it comes to it, because as of right now, they haven't announced the new season, but I do know that it's done filming.
Okay.
So I would assume
that means it's coming pretty soon.
I would assume they're gonna premiere it in September at some point.
If they're gonna premiere in September, I mean, we're past the halfway mark of August. Surely they would start advertising it.
From the last few seasons, they've only started advertising about 3 weeks out.
That's not enough time.
And also, the only thing that might change the premiere date of that is just because this USA is still going on and will presumably go on for at least, I would assume, like 4 or 5 more weeks.
Yeah.
And then you have like Argentina, Australia, and the UK.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the culmination thing that is only on Paramount Plus. And so it doesn't seem very smart to like air them at the same time. But if we know anything about Viacom and CBS and those type of things,
they don't care.
They don't seem to care about the challenge and cannibalize it at all times. They put it up against Survivor and Big Brother and all these other shows that have the same fan base for the most part.
They're setting their own show up for failure.
Yeah, it's
and it just doesn't make sense.
It's interesting. We'll see going forward what they do, but it wouldn't surprise me September, maybe the first week of October, we get a new MTV challenge, but I don't know anything as of right now. But yeah, it's I think I said it was either the last episode or the episode before that, to us it's good, but we don't necessarily think it's better than the main show.
Correct.
A lot of people that obviously have familiarity with these past players, which we know a couple, but if you've watched Big Brother or Survivor or The Amazing Race or whatever, Love Island, and you get to see these people on a new show, it's probably going to be better to you than maybe an MTV show with the same people that you've seen play the challenge over and over again.
For those who have watched the people on their other shows, it's exciting to see a familiar face.
Yeah,
and
in a new arena.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's just, we're on the other sside of that where none of the faces are familiar except for, like, Tasha.
Sarah.
But she's already gone.
Sarah's here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would make it better, but as just purely like an objective, just is this season better? I don't think it necessarily is. I did see some speculation that, because the U.S. challenge winner makes sense. A UK one, even to an extent, makes sense. An Australia one, sure. Argentina is a weird one. And I saw someone in our Slack group, which again, patreon.com/MashNetsPodcast, speculate that they're wondering if Argentina only got their own show because that's where they're filming this one, and they're probably filming all of them are in Argentina. And they're using the house, and they're wondering if there's we'll let you have your own version of it. Because, like the U.S., obviously the powerhouse of television and reality shows and the challenge in general. The U.K., pretty big showing for the challenge. There. Yeah, a lot of MTV spinoffs. Australia, obviously, that makes sense. Argentina just does not fit with the other three.
That you know of. Haven't they had previous challenge seasons in Argentina before?
They probably, but I mean, to that degree, they've done them in like 40 countries probably. But I don't know why Argentina specifically, and I have no idea. And I have no idea who's on any of the other casts as far as, the UK one. I don't think we'll see any of the people that we're used to. As far as, like Rogan and Joss and any of those people, I don't think they'll be on there.
I'd like to see Rogan and Joss both make a comeback.
Well, I just don't think they will because you didn't use any of your MTV people for this show. So they might pull from the Big Brother UK, which some of the people, that crossed over were from. I don't think we're going to see Bear on this show.
No. That's the only person that I know of off the top of my head that was on the Big Brother UK.
There's probably some other ones. I don't know like specifically, but I don't think we'll see like Georgia or any of that. And then like the Australian one, I have no idea. Like the only person I even know that's from Australia is Dee, and they're not bringing her back. And she actually was on the Geordie shore in the UK, not in Australia.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And so I don't know who that's going to be. And I definitely don't know who Argentina's going to be. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested. I don't know if we'll watch all of those, but we'll watch the culmination one, like the not War of the Worlds, but whatever they're calling it now, when they were going to name it after arguably one of the top 3 seasons of all time.
Wars of the World.
No.
It's
Although
not
that type of thing wouldn't surprise me because they're very bad about branding and like cannibalizing their own stuff. So
if that's what they call it, you have to.
They're not calling it. They've already said what they're calling it, and it's not that. But I think they're just calling the Challenge World Championships or something like that.
That's a lazy name.
Well, they can't name it War of the Worlds. Like
no, but
they did for like
a
couple months.
The Challenge Championship is
World Championships.
That's lazy. Get creative.
What would you call it? Oh, your idea was Wars of the World.
Yeah, because I know these guys and they're bad at naming things. And I could see it happening. I could see them naming it Wars of the World. That's what they should have named it.
There's no way they would have named it that. So episode 7, again, algorithm stuff, which it seems like this may be the last episode of the algorithm.
Yeah, that's my last note for this episode is no more algorithm.
Yeah, so
interesting to see what they're going to do for the rest of the season without it.
Yeah, who knows, but
how many people are left?
Couldn't tell you. I mean, we're 7 episodes in, so at the end of this episode, you've lost 14 people because you've lost a pair each time. So there's probably, I'd say at least 14 left. I don't know. I'm not pulling up because I want to risk looking up any spoilers or anything. But the only real note I had from the algorithm pairings were a couple of them was Dani said that Justee might be the MVP of the season so far, which, yeah, she has won a daily and she's won a couple of eliminations, but I don't think she's the MVP of the season so far. I think she's maybe the most surprising or most improved, if you could do that, even though we haven't seen them so far.
Like underrated?
Yeah, because like I think she has done way better than I expected and probably what most people expected, but I still think, even though he hasn't had as good of a run, I still think Tyson's MVP of the season.
Yes.
And then I would say like Angela and Katelin were like right there behind them. And then maybe Justine in like 4th, which is impressive for her.
Yeah. Or maybe Desi.
Desi's only had really like last episode where she like really showed out, and I think in the long run, yeah, she's better. Alyssa's not stoked at all on being paired up with Leo.
That's my first note too.
And she's
upset about it.
I don't blame
her.
Don't blame her at all. It's we'll get in more in their dynamics going forward. And then Tyson and Sarah matched up. Like
here's the thing. So 3 episodes ago now is when Tyson threw
2 episodes ago.
Okay, yeah.
So it was episode
3.
5.
It was 3 pairings ago.
Yeah, it was episode 5 was when that happened. Then episode 6, they paired Sarah and Ben. And then this one, now it's Sarah and Tyson. They have.
It's not. It is not.
I agree.
It's not.
It's not probably
randomized.
Random. They have not been paired together before, so I will give them that. But
no, but out of all the pairings that you could do, Tyson throws in Sarah into elimination to get at Ben. Suddenly, Sarah and Ben are partners. Guess what happens next? Sarah and Tyson are partners.
Yeah.
It's not random. There's no way. It's just not.
So then from there, like, we get into the house. We kind of have like a little powerhouse meeting where it's like Tyson, Angela, and Katelin are all talking, and they're kind of seeming like, oh, these are the top 3. And they seem to view themselves that way. And then people on the outside looking in see
it the exact same way.
Yeah, they're like, hey, these guys are the front runners. They also think they're kind of untouchable, and they definitely have the most money, it seems.
Well, I mean, like speaking of MVPs, Tyson, Angela, and Kyland, they're known as like the big three right now in the house.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, if at least one, if not two of them every week is winning a daily and getting money and being safe from elimination, puts up the rest of the house on the chopping block if they're not the ones winning and being safe.
It hasn't been every week, but it's been a lot of
almost
times.
Every week.
And so,
I mean, how much money does Tyson have at this point?
I don't know. I know that like Katelin and Tyson and Angela, I think, are all in the like above 10,000.
Yes,
for sure they are. I know they are. And then there's some people who don't even have any. So Sarah and Tyson have like a little get together where they're talking, and
it was so like you could tell that
they're just lying to each other.
Yeah, you could tell even through the screen that it was fake. Sarah's like fake trying to bury the hatchet with Tyson because they're partners now, and then immediately in her confessional, she says that she doesn't trust him, she never will trust him, and she doesn't mind throwing them into elimination,
which doesn't make
Tyson. It doesn't make any sense, but she's like, well, if I do it, I can make some money. Well, okay, if you do it and you lose, you're gone.
Well, it's not that. Like, I'll get to that in a little bit because I believe, I have a note about it later, but that whole situation, the way she was looking at it, doesn't make sense.
But, in the midst of their conversation, Tyson just kind of like fake accepts it.
Yeah.
And then in his confessional, he's like, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, again.
So, like, they're lying to each other's faces. They're playing nice, but not really.
Survivor's very manipulative. So then we get, I don't know if it's the first one of the season, but we get a FaceTime call with Leo to his girlfriend, and she is not
what you expected?
No. She's just not in a good place because of everything going on.
So he FaceTimes her, and like the first thing that he says, because she's like, how have you been doing? He's like, oh, just hanging out, sleeping, taking naps like a cat.
Yeah.
Because he's got to throw that in somewhere. But I think him saying that set her off.
Yeah, especially because she's talking about how much like crap they've been having to go through.
Like him like playing off that he's just kind of laying around, lounging while he's gone. I think it really flipped a switch for her. Like, I think she was trying to be composed. Like, he's off here fighting.
She knows it's on camera.
Fighting for this money. But to hear that him say that he's not doing anything but sleeping, I think it really just made her lose it, because she just goes off on him. Like, unlike anything I think I've seen much of when we do these calls or FaceTimes. Like, of course we've seen a couple instances in the past where the calls don't go well. Like when Jenna called Zach and he called her by the wrong name and she got really mad.
That wasn't FaceTime.
That was a call. But again,
maybe that should have been a sign to her that they shouldn't have gone forward with it.
Anyway, usually when you get these calls or these FaceTimes, like their significant other or their mom or whoever they're calling is really supportive, just, kind of gives the competitor that uplifting encouragement that they need to like push through and get through the rest of the season. Leo's girlfriend cut him down. She goes off on him about leaving her and his employees to run his business while he's gone.
Multiple businesses.
Like blames him, like very much the opposite of supportive.
Well,
which surprised me.
I wouldn't say that. I would not say she's the opposite of supportive. From what I gathered from it, is that he left them in a bad position where something went wrong and there weren't things in place to like mitigate that. Mm-hmm. So like when you're going away for these shows and whatever, like you have to have like people train, especially if you own a business. Like, again, I'm sure Wes could talk about it more than anybody, but like you have to have things in place. You have to have like leadership that knows how to, okay, if X happens, so I'm going I'm transitioning jobs currently.
You are soon to be leaving your job that you've been doing for 11 years.
The guy that is taking over a lot of stuff, I'm having to make sure he knows, like, all right, if this happens, it's rare, but here's what you do. And so we've been doing that for the last few weeks as far as, all right, if this is going on, here's how to fix it, here's who to call, all that type of stuff. It sounds like Leo was just like, well, everything's running well. I'll see you guys later. I'll be back in a little bit. And then
he just packed his bags up and left.
Yeah, didn't put any like contingencies in place as far as like, all right, hey, if the credit card machine goes down or whatever, here's who you call. Here's this guy, or train someone how to do it. And so the credit card machine goes down. And so they're scrambling. So that means if it's a restaurant, which I believe I heard him say it was a restaurant of some sort, maybe not.
If it's not a restaurant, it's a bar.
Seems like it. And so, yeah, if your credit card machine's not working, your employees, who probably a lot of them rely on tips and stuff, that's a big thing that they're going to be losing money. You're going to be losing money. So you need to have that in place. So anyway, after this whole conversation, he just is quitting. Well,
no, like he's talking to her about that. Yeah, if you're going to leave without like being the mom, leaving your child with a new babysitter, here's the phone number to the local police department and the fire department. Like that's what they did back in the day. And here's the emergency phone number to call. So he's on FaceTime with her and she's telling him about the issues that they've had, and he doesn't provide any solution.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
we
didn't hear everything, but yes, that I did pick that up as well.
But he could have said, "Oh, hey, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't leave his number, or I did, and it's in my office in the second drawer to the left, whatever." He could have been like, "Okay, here's who you need to call. Get in touch with him right now." He did not, that we saw. He didn't do that at all. Yeah. And she was just really mad at him. He was getting kind of down and out about it, and finally just gave up. And he was like, "Oh, fine. You want me to leave? I'll just pack my bags and I'll leave right now."
Yeah, very passive aggressive.
But she was like, "Okay, good."
Yeah,
like encouraging him to quit.
I mean, yeah.
That's why I said non-supportive, because he finally was being passive aggressive and saying, "I'll just leave right now," and she was encouraging that.
Yeah, let's be honest. If Leo, he does win another elimination, he still is not in the top half of people that I would be worried about winning this season. And so he's quitting. He starts packing all of his stuff. He starts basically putting his suitcase up that night, and he's like acting like he's getting out of there.
Well, he started walking out, and Alyssa caught him, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and like I guess to me, her reasoning didn't really make a lot of sense, because she was like, "Well, what happened if you're gone?" And I agree, we don't know what would happen, but I mean, he wants to leave, and so do you think like trying to convince him to stay for the next daily is going to make it any better? Because best case, you guys don't go into elimination, you don't go home. He's then going to be partnered with someone else, so then they're in the exact same position, I guess.
No, I fully agreed with what Alyssa said, because we've seen time and time again with Sarah Rice specifically.
But that's a different thing.
Specifically, like multiple times, she has had partners either sent home or quit.
Different era, but we've seen it multiple times where she has had the short end of the stick, and because her partner has to leave or chooses to leave, she's out of the game. But
and Alyssa asked, like, "What about me?"
Here's the thing.
Yes,
These are
not
strict. These are not strict partnerships. You're changing every time, so you wouldn't penalize the one partner that's just for that one day, because that is just random luck of the draw.
I understand, but here's the thing. I totally understood what Alyssa was saying, and I agreed, because if Leo quits, they're down one guy, and they have an odd number of girls. What are they going to do? How would they fix that?
They've done it many others. They did it the last few. Like again, you just do just a girls elimination. We just saw it on the All Stars thing. Like this isn't where it's a pair season where you're with the same person all the time. That's when Sarah got sent home both times, was because it was a pair season, and her pair went home for one reason or the other. Trishelle quit. Vinny got sent home.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is a rotating thing. With the modern challenge, they would have done. They're not going to send Alyssa home because you can't punish someone who just has been partnered with the person for less than 24 hours. That they would just be like, all right, well, they would figure something out and be like, all right, we're just going to have a girls' elimination tonight and even it up. Or they would, I would assume, bring one of the guys back that just got sent home, like the most recent guy.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I fully agree that that's how it should be handled. But again, with the challenge, they're so inconsistent that there's no telling. I would not want to risk that. And again, she's saying, well, what about me? Just wait until after the daily, because worst case scenario, if they switch partners, who cares if he quits?
But I know, but you can't wait until after the daily and then just hope, because then if people know he wants to quit, they're going to immediately throw him into elimination.
Or
so that
wait until after the elimination and then quit.
I get
just don't let him quit while he's your partner. Wait until you've got a new partner and then encourage him to quit.
I get that, but it's at the same time that the production looking at this knows he wants to quit, know that they can't, even if he got through it with Alyssa and then the next thing was like, oh, I got to go home now. They're not going to be like, well, we got to send whoever his new partner is home.
Yeah.
Like, they're not. As much as I don't agree with some of the production stuff sometimes, in the modern era, they've done a much better job about either bringing back people who've just been eliminated or doing just guys eliminations, just girls eliminations, vice versa, whatever. They're not going to send one of these people home for someone like Leo if they screwed something up.
I agree. And I think that's exactly how it should be. However, if I'm Alyssa, I don't want to take the chance.
I get it. Like, that's fine, but like her logic didn't make total sense. But
did. It made total sense.
It didn't, because like, again, if he's gonna quit, like it's not gonna jeopardize her. I mean, I
wouldn't want to take the chance. Wouldn't want to take the chance.
I get it, but
wait until next week when he's partnered with Justine, and then I don't care.
We get to the daily. Well, Winston just jumped out of his chair.
He's trying to get in my lap.
Well, he's over on me, putting my fingers in his mouth. We get to the daily. It's called recreational driving. It's fine.
I don't like these names. Whoever's naming this stuff is doing not a great job.
I mean, at least it wasn't called like
blindfold blindfolded.
Car. Yeah, like it's. They at least did some work and didn't make TJ be like, boy, or whatever.
That was. I hate that. I hate that he had to do that.
I didn't mind this daily.
I kind of liked it. It was fun.
Just because it reminds me of the Mario Kart battles where you have the balloons on the back of your car and you're trying to either hit people with turtle shell or a banana or hope that they run off, the edge and lose a balloon or whatever. Very much remind me of that, except obviously someone's blindfolded.
And you're driving an actual car.
The only thing I kept thinking of is these cars are not all the same cars. They're just different ones that they've pulled in and then spray painted black. Or
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they're not the same because the steering wheels were different and whatever. And so the thing is, it's until your balloons are popped or your car is just inoperable. And I was like, well, what if some of these cars are in a lot worse shape than the other ones? Like,
then that's not really fair.
Yeah, I mean, but it's, who knows?
I guess it's just the risk that you take.
Yeah, basically, all of the teams except one had the guy drive and the girl give directions, except for Tyson and Sarah, because she's a police officer who's like, I'm used to driving cars in crazy conditions.
Yes, absolutely.
So he gave the instructions on that.
But also, like, he started out in the driver's seat. And
did he?
Yeah, he did. He was blindfolded first, and he was like, I can't see anything. I don't want to do this. And she was like, do you want to switch? And then it cuts to somebody else, and then it comes back to them, and they've switched places.
I did not even.
But yes,
that.
Because Sarah has been trained in like the crazy police driving, like my dad,
high adrenaline.
Yeah,
driving.
my dad has been trained in high speed chases, and so out of anybody driving, I want it to be the police officer because they at least have experience with stuff like that.
I mean, honestly though, they didn't they didn't win. Mm-hmm. The team that won was the Dreamsicle car. Kayla named it that. Not 100% sure why.
Yeah, it's a black car.
All of them were black, and I really don't know why she called it the Dreamsicle, but she did. And it turns out they did great. They were the only team, from what they said, that never stopped driving, like to reverse or turn around or anything. Like they were just going, and she was giving him clear enough directions that they never ran up on barrels or into one of the cliffs of gravel or whatever it was.
The big thing about this daily was communication. If you can't communicate very clearly with your partner, you're not going to do well.
Well, speaking of that, Alyssa and Leo are the first team out.
Yes.
Also, we did find out right before it started that Danny's wife Kiki is a horrible driver.
And he drives her everywhere, and that's why he expected to do really well at this.
I feel like we're going to know a lot about her before this season's over.
Speaking of learning things about people, Justine doesn't know the movie Talladega Nights.
Yeah, and she blamed, and like I guess like she was like, oh, it's my age, but like she was alive when that movie came out.
How old is she?
I would guess like 22 or 23.
Okay, I think that's Gen Z. I'm pretty sure it's Gen Z. My sisters
what show did she come from?
I don't know.
Island?
Probably Love Island.
Yeah. I don't know age. Here we go. She's 27. She's 27.
Okay, she's my age. She should know.
She knows it. Yes.
I was going to say, if she's like my sister's age, I get it, because I guarantee you ask either one of my sisters about the movie Talladega Nights and they're not going to know what you're talking about.
Okay, but that movie came out in 2006. So it was 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. But Justine was 11 then. Like, she's aware. And Will Ferrell was gigantic. Like, she knows who he is. She's not, again, she's about 5 years older than I thought she was.
Yeah.
But just based off her comment.
Well, speaking of other crazy things that we heard before this started, Kira asked Kyland what the N on the gear shift stands for.
Yeah. Not a good start. Because that's on every car, not
that's
just...
on every car, everywhere, always.
Yeah, it's not
neutral.
Like it's only like stick shifts or anything, and it's just neutral. Like, does she just think she has letters that she's like, it's just a mystery? I don't know. I just don't use them. Yeah, I don't use them. So Alyssa and Leo are the first ones out, and then like we said, Dominic and Kayla win. Again, some smart people have her as a not even dark horse. They just picked her outright as their winner. So,
well, with Leo and Alyssa being the first ones out, they're going straight to elimination. Here's where Sarah contemplates going into elimination versus Leo and Alyssa.
I didn't have that yet because she talks about it again later, because they do that winners and losers talk thing, and they're just kind of figuring things out, and that's when. Good Lord, Winston, what are you doing?
He's snorting. He does that sometimes. Yeah. He snorts like a little pig.
Leo tells him that he's in it to win it. Like, he's not, because they're like, hey, if you're going to throw this, that's going to very much change who we put in for elimination.
Right. Dominic wanted to make sure that Leo was actually going to try.
And I get it, because he did ultimately make a big move, and you're not going to do that if it's a guy who's going to go home. And honestly, going into losing, being like the first one out in the daily, I was like, oh, it won't surprise me if Leo just throws this elimination.
Yeah, because he was in a bad headspace earlier, was ready to quit.
Apparently he was losing $43,000 in that weekend. Here's the other thing. I told you this when we were watching it. I was like, if you're Leo and that thing is, and they're like, hey, we lost $43,000, I would say, hey, call every IT and computer guy in Google, like in our area, in the city, and say, hey, here's what's going on. We'll pay you. What's your fee? $2,000, $1,000, whatever.
That's better than 40-something thousand.
$43,000 on sales. Yeah. So I was like, are they really like they don't understand like how to do like there's no protocols in place. Like that's what was baffling about the whole situation. Is like,
how are you running a
business?
business?
Our credit card machine's down, and I was like, there's no one in whatever city you're in that knows how to get that up and running again.
Yeah.
Even if your employees can't for whatever reason, like there's somebody you could just call and they'd figure it out anyway. Or to call the company that makes the machine that you use and say, hey, what do you guys suggest? It's not working.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Oh, no, too bad we lost $40,000.
Okay, here's the thing. So, like, I work part-time at a boutique, and the owner is gone all the time.
Out of the country sometimes.
She's gone all the time. A lot of the time, she's on the other side of the planet and unreachable. There have been multiple times, almost, especially like my first 3 years working there, anytime she was out of town, especially in like India, I would have something crazy go wrong every single time she was gone. If there's something wrong with like our register or our card machine, we still have the manufacturer, like the company's like emergency phone number, like taped on the front of it. It like it's a sticker that comes with the register. If it goes down, which it does frequently, I know like, hey, customer service 1-800 da 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 da, and I call that number and
that's what's
they
crazy
fix it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like even if there wasn't a customer service number, like it's whatever they're using, it's branded in some way. Like just be like, oh, let's Google big money credit card
or
machine.
like Square, like, hey, this thing, it doesn't have the number, but at the bottom it has a logo that says Square.
It would be
Google
funny.
Square.
It would be funny if they were using something like Square like that, and then their Wi-Fi just disconnected from it, and like, I don't know, it's messed up. We can't do any sales.
We're gonna lose $43,000.
Yeah, it's just like, again, call like it's such a problem that
common sense would solve.
It seems that way, unless he just very illy like did not prepare anyone in any sort of troubleshooting thing. Because to me, again, I deal in tech stuff, and so there's always problems and there's always stuff you got to figure out and fix, and then you do sometimes have to call the manufacturers or the company and be like, hey, we're seeing this, what do we do? Mm-hmm. But to me, that's common sense of any sort of, I don't know. It was just mind-blowing to me. It's just like, now we'll just take a $40,000 loss.
It just doesn't make sense. Like the thing is, like, when I have things go wrong, I call the company and try to fix it before I bother the owner.
Well, even
I don't call her unless I cannot come up with a solution.
You've even asked me about stuff like that before when it was like a networking thing.
Yeah.
With that, and it's like, yeah, just ask someone who like might know before you just like, oh, I don't know.
Like, oh, hey, my roommate's brother works on computers. Maybe I could call him.
Exactly. Or it's again. Anyway,
make it make sense.
Kayla does want to shake some things up, and so her and Dominic talk a little bit about that. And
Dominic says that he wants to take a shot at either Angela or Katelin because when they were paired up, they threw him into elimination.
Yeah,
and he just wants to get back at them.
Which, if I remember right, was the elimination where he forgot to plug the hole in that water thing,
and he came really close to losing it.
So
that was the one Tasha went home.
Yeah. And so, Angela kind of starts to try and make deals with both of them, and Kayla's like, hey, well, in the confessional lease, she's like, this person has never talked to me the entire time we've been here, and apparently didn't even come talk to her during all of this, but she did talk to Dominic.
And then later she came to strike a deal with Kayla.
Did she?
Privately.
Okay.
Yeah, she struck a deal with Kayla, and then she struck a deal with Dominic.
Yeah. Well,
the same deal, but she talked to
Yeah.
them individually.
Yeah. So then we get this whole thing with Tyson and Sarah again. This is where my issue with Sarah's plan is. Because Tyson's worried that Sarah might go behind his back to try to get money to go in, so she can make the final. Mm-hmm. Sarah, we see, has talked to Dominic about it. And she, in her confessional, and like maybe even to Dominic, was like, oh yeah, I kind of want Tyson to be blindsided by this and just to kind of mess with him. And I was like, okay, here's the thing. If you want him to sweat or whatever, that's fine. But if he's your guy that you're depending on, and I don't think Tyson would have a problem with eliminations or whatever, depending on what they were. You don't want him to be surprised last minute and then be like, oh God, I got to get in this head. Like, you want him to be able to prepare, because if you guys go home, I mean, if you guys don't win, she goes home as well.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's what didn't make any sense, is like, you don't want to surprise your partner who, one, you're trying to use to like gamble to get more money, and two, controls if you stay in the game. And so I was like,
if you really catch him off guard and he can't get in the right headspace in the middle of elimination, you're going home and you've cost yourself $500,000.
Yeah, which I don't think he's that type of guy. I feel like he's more level-headed than other ones.
But if for some reason he just couldn't zero in, you've cost yourself money.
Yeah,
dummy.
Because like it's just dumb. Like, if you were to say, hey Tyson, this is a weaker team, and I think we can beat them in elimination, and I don't have any money, so I'm going to tell him that we're going in. He can argue with you all he wants, but at least that puts him, I might be going in.
Yeah.
But to just be like, I want to get him off his guard, it's like, that's a detriment to you as much as it is to anybody.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
And so,
but she said this in the daily when she was talking about Leo and Alyssa going into elimination. She contemplated going into elimination versus Leah and Alyssa, her and Tyson, for two reasons.
I think you said
Alyssa and Leo. For two reasons. One, to get money. Two, to make Tyson sweat. Which, again, it's one thing to tell Tyson you want to go into elimination, but it's a whole nother thing to go behind his back and plot and scheme to throw yourself and him in without giving him a heads up.
And the dumb thing is, on that front, before the daily had even started, why not just try to win the daily, and then you get the money and you're cleared to go to the final?
Yeah.
Like, that's all you have to do.
You get money for winning the daily.
Yeah, exactly. You get enough from the one daily win. And so, like,
it's like she's so focused on
short-sighted.
She's so focused on sending Tyson home, even while she's his partner, that she forgets if she does that while she's still partners with him, she's sending herself home too.
It's like the classic, like, cut off your nose despite your face. And it's just like, come on, like, think like just a little. And maybe she's just like trying to play it up in the confessionals, but I was like, it's a really dumb like thought process. And I was like, of all the weeks, this is the week where it affects you the most.
Yeah, this is the week where you want to play nice. But thankfully,
which also is the week that she has the best shot at winning stuff. So like, I just don't know why you be like, hey, I know we don't really trust each other, but let's like really focus on winning this week.
But that was the fake burying the hatchet earlier at the beginning of the episode. She just didn't mean it. But if she had actually tried, I mean, look at Tyson's track record. His probability of winning the daily is high.
Now, it has dropped after the first few episodes, but he's also had some weird partners and things like that.
Not his fault.
Like throw-uppy partners and stuff.
But, I mean, thankfully, Tyson hears about the secret elimination and actually goes to her and confronts her about it.
The secret elimination?
The secret elimination. Okay. She's secretly trying to go into elimination.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Like, he hears about it and he confronts her and he's like, hey, I'm hearing this. Why am I hearing this?
Yeah, it's very stupid. So we get to the elimination, and Dominic and Kayla. Man, I forgot her name for a second. They pick Kyland and Kira. There's a lot of C and K names, and and there's a lot of D names.
Yeah,
it's like
Dominic, Kayla, Kyland, Kyra.
Yeah,
Kira.
Yeah.
Danny, David,
Kiki, who's not on the show but is a part of it.
But she's here in spirit.
So yeah, they pick Kylan and Kira because they don't pick Angela because Dominic is like, well, I haven't been partnered with her and she's very strong and
she could help him win a daily.
But Kylan was half of the people that threw him in. And also, he's like, if we get to the final, it's like, I don't want to see Kylan there.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. And by the way, it 100% worked. So,
well, also, Kayla supported throwing in Kylan because she was still mad that Kylan never had a one-on-one private conversation with her.
That's what it was. Because I was thinking she said that about Angela, but it was Kylan.
I think she did say it about Angela.
But Angela did come back and talk to her. Katelin didn't.
Katelin was the one person that still, even while she was in a position of power, still never came to talk to her.
That's what I was thinking
And so
earlier.
she's like, yeah, I fully support throwing in Katelin.
So it's called Ball and Chain. Fine, whatever name. But it's basically you have to lift up your partner to reveal these questions, and then you have to go back and untangle medicine balls that are all chained in various ways, and then lift up your partner to put the medicine ball 10 feet in the air, probably. Like maybe even a little bit more than that, but probably about basketball goals, like height. And so they
it's trivia.
It is
it's
trivia.
Like physical trivia.
Which again, I don't mind the mixing and matching. Last week was not a great way to do it because there's like, oh, we're gonna ask you one question each and then go from there. Winston sneezed, if anybody heard that. But this one, I think, did equalize it because it wasn't purely physical.
I liked this elimination.
The only thing I didn't like was these were some very
heavy medicine balls.
No, that's not what I don't like about it. I don't like that these questions were kind of obscure celebrity questions. That's what screwed everybody up.
I think, especially with the Madonna one, Madonna is not like household name with like a lot of the people in this group because a lot of them are like older Gen Z and younger millennials.
They know Madonna, but she's not like a focal point anymore.
Yeah,
and so,
she's not someone I'm talking about even monthly.
No, probably not for me either. But
I mean, like I'm 27 and I have never kept up with Madonna ever.
Well,
ever.
The thing, yeah, I mean, Madonna even was like big, like before I was really like aware. And the thing with that question in particular was like how many times she'd been married. And
I swear, I thought it was like 7 or 8.
I figured it was like 4 or so because I was like, oh, it was like she's been in the spotlight since the early mid 80s.
I knew that she had dated a lot of people.
And I knew that she was married to Guy Ritchie, and I knew that she had been with a few other people, and so like that question was tough for me. And we looked it up. It's only 2. She's only dated. She only married Sean Penn and Guy Ritchie.
Yeah,
and
she's just dated a lot of people.
Yeah, and then like the Adele one, I got right,
but by guessing.
Yeah, but
you guessed that she had 3 or 4 albums.
Yes,
and I thought it was 5 or 6.
Yeah, but
I thought it was 5 because I heard the other week that she had been working on a new album, and I guess in my mind I was thinking, oh, that album must be out or almost out.
No, I knew it had only been about 4, just kind of because like she spaces them out pretty big every handful of years, but I didn't know for sure, and I knew a lot of the other questions.
Well, Kyland,
yeah.
He's a big challenge fan. He studied trivia before he came on.
I was with Kayla. I did get the cow one wrong. I thought it was 3 stomachs, and it turned out it was 4.
He said it was like immediately, like that was one of his flashcards.
Then that was but they ended up getting it wrong. And they went with 6, and
he had it right, and then they messed up the Madonna question and didn't know. Like I wouldn't have known. I would have absolutely guessed like, oh, she hasn't been married 6 times. Let's bump it up.
Well, and they didn't. They don't tell you which one you got wrong.
Yeah.
And so, then they're flipping them around. I do like that it kind of equalizes it because it's not just, the biggest, strongest team wins. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have a problem with this elimination. I did have a problem with Kara honestly not performing very well.
No, I was incredibly disappointed in her.
Like, compared to Alyssa, she's a much bigger girl. Like, she's not big. Like, I'm not like, she's fat or anything.
But Alyssa's just little.
Alyssa's very, like, slight. And, like, Kira's just a bigger person. And, like, if they did a hall brawl type thing, Kira should win that 9 times out of 10. And, so, like, Kira's taller. She's a bigger person. So I figured, she'll be able to move the medicine balls easier.
Not to mention, Kyland is a tall, big guy, so she's already not having to strain as hard.
Yeah,
because with his height, she's already like on his shoulders. She's higher up.
Yeah, she was struggling, and then at one point at the end, she starts to fall, and then of all the things, she grabs the chain and pulls the ball off, so they have to do it again.
In spite of the fact that any other time that she had fallen or jumped off, Katelin was there to catch her. He caught her every time.
I mean, and also you're like it's sand, like, and you're not falling from anyway. I know it's just kind of instincts, and you're grabbing for whatever, but
it sucked because she pulled 2 medicine balls, and I think one of them came down.
Yeah, I think that they. I don't remember what the celebrity style questions were for Leo and Alyssa.
Well, one of them was how many lives does a cat have?
Well, that's not a celebrity. Cat.
No, but like they gave Leo.
I know, but
that question.
I think everyone would have got that one. That's just kind of like a gimme question. But I'm trying to think what was kind of the equalizer ones. But I mean, again, shout out to Alyssa and Leo because they did win. And like
Leo figured out a really good way of like bracing himself against the wall to give Alyssa a better foundation, so that he's not like so wobbly. But she was also she did gymnastics forever, and so she was already like good on people's shoulders and
balance and stuff like that. Yeah, so they definitely had a little bit of the advantage on that point with just Alyssa having that background. But again, shout out to them. It was close. And they all had all the balls up there. It's just that Katelin and them, they got really thrown off by the Madonna question. And, maybe it was Madonna on one side and Adele on the other. Anyway.
Adele was the one that Leo and Alyssa had.
That's
because
what it was.
They got it wrong.
And then they fixed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, the Madonna one just kind of threw them off, and then they went up on the stomachs. And so... It just kind of was a chain reaction type thing, but again,
it was a roller coaster of an elimination.
TJ said afterwards that might be one of his favorite eliminations of all time, which is crazy.
Like there was it's major upset, but also like it was back and forth, and I don't know. I really wanted Katelin to win because I was not ready for him to go home. I was ready for Kira to go home.
Yeah, I'm fine with Kira going home. I was fine with Leo going home. Alyssa, I don't mind. I think
I
if
kind of
she
like
stayed,
Alyssa. Okay,
she's fine. But it is a big upset. Dominic and Kayla. That is a huge momentum shift for the house, and that it worked for them.
And that leaves just Angela and Tyson left in their little alliance.
Yeah, and so Kylan in his confessional on the way out says the challenge is the coolest game in the world. And he's been on Big Brother, so that makes me say I definitely don't need to watch Big Brother.
My final thoughts, I hope that production calls Katelin back in the future. I want to see him on a real legitimate main show challenge.
But that's the thing. I don't know if going forward, if they're going to be like, all right, well, we have the MTV show and we have the CBS show.
I hope they don't do that.
I feel like if that's the path they do take, they will end up killing off the MTV version.
Really?
Oh, 100%. Because you don't have any of the feeder shows anymore. And so I feel like if they do make that switch to only go to one show, I feel like they're like, you know what, MTV's all ridiculousness and whatever, and we can have it on CBS and have people be like, oh, I know them from Big Brother and Survivor and whatever.
Yeah.
I hope that if they do kill off one and only leave one, that they integrate the people from MTV as well, and have
CT,
have 6 of them on this season, and then another 8 on the next season, and things like that. And so it's not the same people all the time, but there are people on the MTV show that are undeniably very, very good at this specific thing. And
I mean, look at Johnny Bananas
and CT and Wes, and all those guys are just
they were created and made for MTV's The Challenge.
Yeah.
They were made for it.
There's people who are just crazy good at this. And so it is a little unfair to call these the world champions when you're not going against these people.
They're not going against the actual champions.
If you took all of the people on this season and then just said, oh, we're going to add CT, Bananas, Wes, and Jordyn, I'd be like, oh, well, no, they're not going to win.
Either Bananas, CT, Wes, or Jordyn are going to win.
Yeah, one of those 4 is going to win, or they're going to just team up those 4 and take everyone else out.
Yeah,
and
which I could see happening.
Yeah, because they'd be like, oh, screw these new guys. And that's the thing. I hope if they do move away from MTV that they at least keep these people that are still really good.
Yeah.
And not just guys. Those are just ones I was naming off the top of my head, but because we do already have the crossover. We already have a handful of Survivor and Big Brother and all that on the main show. And so I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I have a feeling that they are going to look at this and be like, well, Survivor, Big Brother, Love Island, whatever, they're all still ongoing. We'll have a fresh cast. The MTV thing is slowly dying out because all they do is show ridiculousness.
But
now.
Isn't someone at MTV like rebooting Road Rules?
They have talked about doing a Road Rules type thing like they did with All Stars, but I think that would probably be a Paramount Plus thing.
I didn't know if like they revived Real World and Road Rules, if that would just be like going back to these are the 2 feeders for the challenge.
It might be, but again, just this is all pure speculation. I feel like they'll pivot it to CBS, and then they'll let the All Stars thing happen with the MTV people that are from the past. And I don't know. I hope it's not that, because obviously we love the MTV version, and that's why we started the show. But just going off of sustainability and trends and that type of thing, just market, like how many people would watch it on CBS over MTV? Because
probably more people would watch the CBS one just because.
Well, just think about like my parents' age, like
my parents,
like you tell them like, oh, there's a show on MTV. They're like, I'm not watching that. And like, oh, what's on CBS? I'm like, okay,
yeah, like
it's a different type thing. And so I don't know. I don't know one or the other. That's just my kind of cynical speculation. No more algorithm, like we said at the top of the show. We don't know what that means, but just cliffhanger going into the next episode.
Yeah.
Superlatives for this episode. Who smashed some heads?
Leo's girlfriend.
Yeah. I mean, she
FaceTimed him to go off on him and then tell him that they lost $40,000.
I'm going to give it to Kayla and Dominic because 1, crushed the daily, didn't stop driving the whole time, but 2, took a huge swing against a weaker team, honestly, in Leo and Alyssa, and it ended up working out, and they got rid of one of the top 2 like male competitors that's there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kira is kind of middle of the road to me, but
for Dominic and Kayla, it was a swing and a home run.
Yeah, I mean, huge. Because again, you saw like Tyson go out and it just didn't work. We didn't talk about Leo at the end of that elimination. Said, "I'm the elimination king," and I was like,
no,
okay, let's calm
absolutely
down a little bit. It's been 2, and one of them was against a really really bad team. Who got their head smashed?
2 people, Katelin and then me, because Katelin went home.
I'm gonna give it to Leo because
he lost $40,000 and his girlfriend yelled at him.
From what we can gather, he tried to brag about how much fun he's having about sleeping around, like not sleeping around, but sleeping in and just hanging out, and got chewed out. And like, by the way, we lost $43,000 because you didn't put any sort of like implementations in place of what to do if there are any problems. And apparently, either has dumb people running it or just illy equipped people who he did not, show how to do any sort of problem solving. And so, I think he got his head smashed, even though he did win the elimination.
He still lost $40,000.
Yeah, probably from something that pretty easily fixed.
Yeah.
So that's mine. Book or reading recommendations. I'll go first this week.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, I'll go first this week. Mine for this week is so this is a confusing thing. I had to learn it when I got into comics. You can buy like collected versions of comics. So like, hey, this is issues 1 through 6, and they're called trade paperbacks. I'm not 100% sure why they're called trades, but it's shorthand. It's just trades, and it's where they take like a story arc in a comic series and they put all those issues together and then sell it as like a paperback or a hardcover, and you can like get volume 1, which is like issues 1 through 6 when they came out on their own. They're not graphic novels because a graphic novel is a standalone thing. That's what it is. It's not individual comics. So that I didn't know that when I went into this, but if I say trades or trade paperbacks, that's what I'm talking about. Because I like to sometimes buy the individual comics, but I prefer to read the trades because they're just more sturdy, and I like being able to knock it all out in like one sitting. So I read a trade of something that I do have all the individual comics for, of a book called Assassin Nation. 2 words. Not Assassination Nation, which was a movie a few years back. This is just called Assassin Nation. And it's by a guy named Kyle Starks, who Hannah and I met at a comic convention in Memphis. Super nice guy. Ended up talking to him for a long time. Didn't know him before that. He was writing for Rick and Morty at the time for their comic spinoff and doing some stuff on his own. I bought a graphic novel, and it was a graphic novel that he made called Sex Castle, which is just like an over-the-top 80s action hero. Just like his name is Sex Castle. Like it's just supposed to be goofy, like over-the-top type things. But he did this one called Assassin Nation, and the conceit of it is there's this like leaderboard of all the best assassins in the world as far as like who's killed the most people, and the former number 1 guy, someone's trying to kill him and they don't know who it is, so he hires the top 20 assassins in the world.
So 2 through 20.
No, he's retired. So
okay.
He hires like 1 through 20 to protect him from whoever's trying to kill him, and the whole thing is trying to figure out who's after him and all that stuff. And there's also like all these like subplots where they're trying, like the different assassins are trying to figure out certain things. And it's like, well, who better to keep me protected than all the people who make it their whole lives to sneak in and kill people?
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's some things in there that are definitely not for the kids that I can't say on
this
here.
This is a children's podcast. You can't recommend things that are not kid friendly.
It's
we are FTK for the kids.
It's called Assassin Space Nation, and so it's Kyle Starks if you want to look up that. But again, it's on Amazon. You can get the trade on there, or you can look it up a bunch of ways. Our local comic shop here is ran by like a 76-year-old lady who's very cranky and doesn't like most people, but she really likes me.
And she really likes The Walking Dead, and she lives out in the
she
middle
loves
of
The
nowhere.
Walking Dead, yeah, and she does live kind of out. And she, when this came into the series, I was like, hey, pull these for me. So like when they come out, I have a pull box. So like when they come in, she'll set one aside for me. And she got some promotional material for it, and she ended up giving me a poster for Assassin Nation that was like a big promotional thing, because I was probably the only person that had it pulled at her shop, because it's not a very big shop. But again, she definitely said we have to stop by there before we move, because she doesn't like a lot of people, but she likes me and she likes you. And
I've only met her like twice.
Yeah, but
she likes you a lot.
She does, and every time I go in there, she ends up talking to me for like 45 minutes.
And that's okay. She probably needs that visiting.
Mostly just talking about how dumb a lot of the other people are that come in there.
Listen, like old people, they like when someone comes to visit with them.
Yeah. Oh, and
that's probably what she likes you for.
Yeah,
she likes to visit with you.
I used to go get food, and then I would go in there and be like, I'm just gonna stop in, pick up my pull box, and then I'll go home and eat food. And then I realize I can't do that now, because she always keeps me so much longer than what I mean to. And again, it's mostly just complaining about how dumb people are, or like, can you believe that this happened? And it's
probably the highlight of her day when you come in, though.
Well, yeah, I honestly, if she would like do mail, like I've tried to talk to her about doing like online sales and stuff. She doesn't use the internet.
She doesn't care.
She does not care.
She said she doesn't need it.
She doesn't want to make more money. She doesn't want to deal with it. She said she shipped comics one time to a person, and it became a big hassle. This is like back in the 90s, and she's like, I'm never doing it again. And she hasn't, and I was like, okay. So I can't like keep supporting her once we move, because she doesn't want to. So anyway, Assassination, that's mine.
Mine is one of my favorite novels, but also really just one of my favorite stories. The movie with Keira Knightley.
You can't pick a movie for a reading.
No, but the movie with Keira Knightley is my favorite adaptation of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
V for Vendetta is a reading source.
I love V for Vendetta. Thank you for reminding me that is a reading source. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. The Keira Knightley movie is absolutely top-notch chef's kiss.
Never seen it.
I watched it for the first time. One of our mutual friends, he was obsessed with this movie, and I borrowed it from him after school one day, and I watched it all the way through immediately after school, and upon finishing it, I took a bathroom break, came back to the kitchen table, hard wooden kitchen table. I just couldn't get away from it. Restarted the movie and watched it twice more back to back before going to bed.
Why did you specify it's a hardwood kitchen table?
Because like I sat at my wooden
Okay.
kitchen table with a
You
wooden
didn't say that.
wooden kitchen chair with no cushioning or
You just
anything.
were like, I watched it and then I came back and there's a wooden kitchen table.
I sat in my kitchen
Yep.
for like 8 hours that night watching Pride and Prejudice 3 times in a row. And then the following day,
That's too much.
I know, the following day came home from school and watched it another 2 times back to back immediately after getting home from school. So
Let me ask you a question.
yes,
Because I know how you watch things most of the time. You say you watch things, but you mostly
I
just
did not have
things
my phone
in the background and you're on your phone.
I sat in the kitchen alone. I had all the lights off and I sat there.
You sound like a psychopath.
I sat there and watched it 3 times in a row and then back to back the following day, twice in a row. No distractions. Watched it all the way through over and over. Loved it. And I'm not like a chick flick kind of person. But I loved it so much. And then I read the book and I realized, oh my gosh, they left a lot of stuff out of the movie. And it's like there's plot points that are different.
Have you not suggested this one already? This season? Okay.
My first suggestion was Persuasion by Jane Austen.
Maybe that's what it was.
Because Dakota Johnson from 50 Shades of Grey, she's in the new Netflix adaptation of Persuasion. This is Pride and Prejudice. So I read the novel and it's fantastic. Like there are even times where I caught myself gasping.
You said I caught my cat.
I caught my cat gasping and then I caught myself gasping. Yeah. So after I read the novel, I went back and watched Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice movie. And then immediately after finishing that, I got on, I think it's on Hulu. They have the BBC series.
Yeah.
Which it's like 4 or 5 parts, maybe 6. They're like hour to 2 hour long episodes. So it's older. It came out before the Keira Knightley movie did, and the lead that's playing Mr. Darcy is Colin Firth.
Yeah.
And it took me, so I watched the BBC television series, just to compare it to the Keira Knightley movie, but also compare it to the novel. It is a straight book to screen adaptation. Like they have,
but they also had they could do 6 to 8 hours worth of stuff instead of
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the difference. They were able to stick to the actual storyline of the book, which I really, really appreciated. It's just, it was hard to stay in the series watching it because part of the plot is that the 2 older sisters are supposed to be so beautiful. They're supposed to be like the prettiest girls in the countryside.
They were very plain.
They were the oldest sister I thought was a man cross-dressing.
You showed me and I was like, yeah, because I've not read the book and I was just like, yeah, they're not, they wouldn't strike me as very beautiful.
They were not the very beautiful, most prettiest ladies in all the countryside in the BBC version, but I did enjoy the fact that it stuck to the actual book. But if you want good watching, Keira Knightley is gorgeous, and then the girl that plays her older sister Jane, I can't think of her name, but she actually looks like what you would think Jane would look like.
Well, I read today on Twitter somewhere that Clueless is actually the best adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And they
Clueless the movie?
Yeah, and they were showing parallels between them. And
no.
Yeah, I promise. I saw
No,
yeah.
I love that movie.
I've not read or seen Pride and Prejudice, but they were, and I've seen Clueless, but yeah, they were like, that's the best adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
No, it doesn't make sense.
I didn't write the thing. I'm just telling you what I saw. It's on Twitter somewhere. I'll see if I can find it later. But yeah, that's what it was.
That makes zero sense.
Well, because Paul Rudd wasn't.
Yeah, because Paul Rudd is the love interest, but he like plays. He's not like her stepbrother. He
is her stepbrother.
No, they're not. It's not her stepbrother.
They are. Yes, it is. I'm like.
No, he just works for her dad. He's like her dad's lawyer intern. Because her dad's an attorney. I know. The first time I watched the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, why is she making out with her stepbrother? And then I watched it again, and so her dad's an attorney.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
And Paul Rudd is like in law school, so he's a couple years older than Cher. And so he's in law school, and so he's like an intern for her dad, who's a lawyer. And that's why they're around each other so much. But they treat each other like brother and sister.
Yeah, I don't... Again, I got to be honest. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's been... I'm going to Google it. I'm going to Google it right now. All right, Josh and... They're not related. Their parents were briefly married.
No.
Yeah, and Cher's father is still nice to Josh. Yeah, so they were step brother and sister at one point.
So when Josh's mom couldn't find Josh, she called Cher's house and Cher answered the phone and they talked like they knew each other.
That's like
so that makes sense.
When you Google something, it shows at the very top like an answer.
Yeah.
That's what. Bring up number of post questioning clues his fairy tale ending. Decider wrote back they wrote an article in 2015. Is this the creepiest kiss in cinematic history? This article asked a licensed marriage and family therapist about all this, and she's 16. He's in college. Why is a college student in general wanting to hang out with a 16-year-old? I think it's thinking about the age difference a little bit more than the quote incest piece of it. It's not really incest because they're not related. So their parents were married to each other.
So they're ex step siblings.
Which from like a biological or whatever, like they're not running any dangers on anything. I guess I didn't realize that he was in college when she was 16 at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I knew that he was
I haven't seen it in a while.
He was in.
But I did know that they were somehow marriage related.
He was in college because he wanted to be a lawyer like her dad.
Well,
and she was 16 because she had just gotten her driver's license.
I used to think Stacey Dash was so hot back then. I forgot her friend. I forgot all their names now. Mm-hmm. What was her friends' names?
Because you're asking me, I can't think of it. But I literally talked about this like a couple days ago.
Well, anyway.
What's his name from Scrubs is in it?
Yeah, Donald Faison.
Yeah, he plays the boyfriend.
Yeah. That's the boyfriend of Stacey Dash, but I don't remember her character's name. Anyway, so Pride and Prejudice is Clueless, and they are legally related for a minute, and then maybe not anymore. I don't think it's like adoption. I don't think they're forever related after the...
So it's not an incest kiss.
Congratulations.
It's just a pedophile kiss.
I did forget one thing at the top of the show, and we got to figure out what we're going to do going forward. Shout out to new patron Armando. He joined the fantasy league, and obviously Jake's not here, and his thing was to give everyone shout outs. We got to figure out what we're going to do going forward for new patrons. I've thought about when we get new patrons, letting them like just, hey, give us your hottest or most controversial or whatever take on the challenge, and I will read it on air. And I think I may do that going forward.
What if that makes all our patrons quit Patreon and then rejoin as new patrons?
That's fine if they want to, but I'm thinking about doing that just because that we can be like, all right, hey, new patron, here's what
their
they
hot
think.
take.
What do you guys think about it? And we'll go from there, because I know if we've learned anything about this challenge fandom, it's that
hot takes are everywhere.
People have a lot of opinions. So maybe that going forward, I'll let you know. And again, if you want to be like Armando, the fantasy league is full, so that's not going to be a thing that you can do this time. But going forward, we'll do some more things. So it's patreon.com/SmashingHeadsPodcast. And follow us on Instagram at SmashingHeadsPodcast and on Twitter at SmashingHeads. I don't really want to use Facebook anymore, if I'm being honest, but you got to sometimes. But we'll be back with you next week.
Stay cute.